So here we go. We are going to start with the AFC South because Leonard Fournette getting cut by the Jags. So why not talk about them first? So we'll talk about what they did, who they got, what their schedule is looking like, do a little predictions on what we think they're going to do for the season, and call it a day. So here we go. We are going to start with who do we got? Houston Texans, the first place AFC South winners yesterday. They made it all the way to the second round, the divisional round, when they faced Kansas City. They were able to win that wild card game against the Bills. Josh Allen got out to a hot start. The Bills really led the entire game, but the fourth quarter, Texans came alive, and well done by them. But then they run into the Chiefs. They put up 31 points. What else do you want from Deshaun Watson and company, right? Deshaun Watson and, RIP. The receiver, DeAndre Hopkins. He's not dead. He's just not on the Texans anymore, which is kind of dead in the Texans fans' eyes. So they put up 31 against the Chiefs. But the Chiefs put up 51 in that playoff game. What do you expect? You're not going to outshoot Patrick Mahomes, and the Texans tried it, and they saw what happened. So, they got deep. They won their division. They won a playoff game. They just unfortunately ran into the Super Bowl champions. That's all that happened by them. But 10-6. All right, so what did they do in the offseason? They did lose DeAndre Hopkins. That is big. But they did make up for that lack in wide receivers by bringing in Randall Cobb and Brandon Cooks. Yes, none of them individually are DeAndre Hopkins, but combined they can kind of cover up, those 1,000-yard receiving seasons that DeAndre has. So if you split it up between Randall Cobb and Brandon Cooks, you're gonna miss, that one big superstar, but you're adding two great players in the receiver position to try and offset that loss of DeAndre Hopkins. They also lose Lamar Miller and Carlos Hyde. Lamar Miller tore his ACL. He didn't play in 2019. And the Texans were just like, all right, we're not going to wait any longer. We did find our guy. They had Carlos Hyde last season. He rushed for 1,000 yards. He's out in Houston. But they bring in David Johnson from that trade of Arizona. He did play 13 games last season, only 600 yards. David Johnson ran for 300 and received for 300. So not exactly what Carlos Hyde is going to do, but the read option between Deshaun Watson and David Johnson should really jumpstart his career again. David Johnson, some good years. I think he had 1,000-yard rushing season for the Cardinals. Great receiving threat out of the backfield. Little bit of a lull season last year for the Cardinals, but I think he's going to fit in really great here for Houston. So overall, they lose the receiver. They were able to pick up two to try and offset that. They lose their 1,000-yard rusher from last season, but they bring in David Johnson. Who can make up for the loss of Carlos Hyde, no doubt. So overall, Houston's probably going to be maybe a little bit. Maybe just a slight less than what they were last season, just because DeAndre Hopkins, just because the star power and just the focus of the offense being on DeAndre Hopkins, now it's going to be spread out everywhere. So we don't expect Houston to really take too much of a step back. Oh, and they also lost Jonathan Joseph on the defensive end. That's going to be a real killer for them, especially since he went to division rival the Titans. We'll get into that when we talk about them. But I don't really see the Houston Texans taking a too far step back. It's still Deshaun Watson. He's still great. Hopefully Bill O'Brien can still kind of coach around what he's got. Hasn't really been the best coach. He really needs his playmakers. He tried to bring in a couple. Brandon Cooks, Randall Cobb, David Johnson, trying to offset for all those losses in the offseason. So we'll see how it goes. Let's get into who they are actually facing. All right, so no preseason games as we have been seeing, or we would have already had football by now, man. We would have already had about a month of football if preseason was actually still going on. We would have just had football the other day, August 29th. It would have been it would have been preseason, but it still would have been football, right? It would have been Saints and who am I talking about? The Texans. It would have been Saints and Texans. That would have been good, right? Why not? But unfortunately, we have to wait 10 more days. So here we go. The Texans start off at Kansas City. That's a loss. We saw what they did in the playoffs. This Texans team isn't as good as they were last year, and this Kansas City team is as good as they were last year. So tough schedule starting out. They're going to start 0-1. Then they go. They are at home against Baltimore. That's probably another loss. The Ravens are out to prove themselves to be good. Kind of the same team, Deshaun Watson and Lamar Jackson. Kind of the same, but Baltimore just kind of better, more tight. Their coach is better. What is his name? Blanking on the name. When you're blanking on the name, Harbaugh. Harbaugh is a way better coach than Bill O'Brien. This is a tough opening schedule for the Texans, Chiefs, and Ravens. I don't see them winning either of these two games, but then they go to Pittsburgh. They probably get the win there. Ben Roethlisberger coming off an injury. They've got none of their playmakers anymore, so I can give them a win against Pittsburgh. Minnesota at home, I'll probably say they may win just because they are at home. I think I do like the Vikings as a team a little bit better, but at home, I can give the Texans the win there. So they're at 2 wins so far. Jacksonville, that should be a very easy win. No doubt Jacksonville's getting rid of all their players. I don't think that's a good strategy, but hey, once again, what do I know? I'm just somebody who's talking about sports on the internet. But they win against Jacksonville pretty much easily. I'll pretty much have them split against the Titans. Titans are good. They got a little better. They're keeping their pieces from last season. They added a little bit of talent. We'll get into them. But I'll have them splitting. So far, 4 wins. Then they're at home against Green Bay. Aaron Rodgers, how is he going to respond from last season? Interesting going into the bye. Maybe they have a little bit of momentum trying to carry on going into the bye. Coming off of a Titans win. Ooh, maybe a Titans loss. All right, we'll count this one as a loss because it is in Tennessee. So three wins so far. Pittsburgh, Vikings, Jags. All right, a nice little 3-win stretch there. Then they lose against because they're going to Tennessee. I'll have them win against Tennessee when they are at home. But then they go to, so they're coming off a loss back at home at Green Bay, they're facing Green Bay. They're at home, coming off the loss away in Tennessee. So I think I could give them a win here. Looking forward to the bye. They're at home, coming off a loss. We'll give them a win there. Then they come off the bye and have Jacksonville again. Even though they're in Jacksonville, it doesn't matter. They have a week to prepare for a trash team, and they'll probably win. So 5 wins so far. Then they go against the Cleveland Browns. They're at the Browns. Late season, Browns could probably be a little bit of a problem. They'll probably get all their issues figured out. They've got a ton of talent. Nobody's doubting their talent. They just have to put it together. New head coach. Expect this Cleveland Browns team to be a lot better than they were last season. So do they beat the Browns? Is this team good enough to beat this star-studded cast of Browns team? I'm going to give them a loss just because they've got 5 wins already. They're coming up on the Patriots. They probably beat the Patriots. A lot of defenders on the Patriots not playing because of COVID. You got Cam Newton, who I think is going to obviously be the starter, but there will be a little bit of finding themselves. This is kind of later in the season, New England, but I do think the Texans are still pretty good, and I'll have them winning against the Patriots. So that's 6. Yes, they win against Detroit. Oh, also they're at home against that Patriots team, so that I'm a little more confident on giving them that win. Then they go to Detroit, and, that sorry organization, that sorry team, never been good. Matthew Stafford can't get it done. Matt Patricia, I don't think, in my opinion, can be a head coach. So, good win here. Then they get the Colts. I'll probably have them split because I do like what the Colts did. They established a winning culture, and they bring in Phillip Rivers. That's really, all they've been missing is that solid starting quarterback, and they bring in a good veteran. So, I'll have them split against the Colts. I'll have them win the game at home. home, so they're at 8 games. Then they go to Chicago, and who knows what's going to happen there. They'll have probably a quarterback switch by then. They'll probably start Trubisky and then switch to Nick Foles by the time Houston comes to town. So probably have them win against the Bears. They lose when they have to go to the Colts. They win. Ooh, this is going to be tough. They're at home against the Bengals, who they've got Joe Burrow. He's going to have pretty much an entire season under his belt, so we'll see what he's going to be able to do, putting everything together in these last 2 games for Joe Burrow, maybe competing for a playoff spot. His division's not too tough at the moment. They do have Baltimore, so I guess I shouldn't be saying that. But maybe a wild card spot for the Cincinnati's up for grabs late in the season. But we have to go off of what we've been shown so far. So we'll give them a win there against Cincinnati. They are at home. They're going to be competing. The Texans are going to be competing for the division and a playoff spot late in the season. They're at 9 wins going into the Bengals game. I had them winning against the Bengals, so that puts them at 10 wins. But once again, I have to give them the split against Tennessee, so they lose that last game. I think it's confident that the Texans can kind of do what they did last season, go 10-6 again. They may be able to, let's see, what would be the 11th win if we have to give them one. Maybe. So we had their wins against Pittsburgh, Vikings, Jags, Packers, Jags again. Did we have them beating the Browns? No, they weren't beating the Browns. They beat the Patriots. They beat the Lions. They beat the Colts once. They beat the Bears. And then they beat the Bengals. So their 11th win could potentially come from that Cleveland Browns. And that 7th loss could potentially come from this Cincinnati team. So looking about, I have them officially at 10-6, but it wouldn't surprise me if they go 9-7 because they could lose to that Bengals team, and it also wouldn't surprise me if they go 11-5 because they could beat that Cleveland Browns team. Overall, not a hard schedule. Their toughest opponents are right up front, Kansas City and Baltimore. After that, good competition with Packers and New England, but reasonable wins that they could get off. So, if they start 0-2, don't panic too much on the Texans. They're facing good teams. Their schedule gets a lot easier after those 2 weeks. But 10-6, I think, is good for them. We'll mark it here. Official prediction, 10-6. Well done, Texans. We'll see how they rank up against the other teams. So let's move on, and then we'll declare an AFC South winner. Our next team is going to be the Colts that we are talking about. They went 7-9 last season. Not great, but they were rocking Jacoby Brissett. Correct? Am I right? Jacoby Brissett was the starter last season. Yes, he was. Didn't even throw for 4,000 or 3,000 yards. That's a problem. Marlon Mack, great, 1,000 yards. T.Y. Hilton, consistent receiver. He only put up 500, but Jacoby Brissett only threw for 2,900. So he got a good chunk of that percentage of yards. So their offense is good. Their line is good. When you have a 1,000-yard rusher, that's very good. Finished 7-9. What did they do in the offseason? Well, as I said, they got their starting quarterback. They picked up Phillip Rivers, checking off that spot that they needed to fill. Jacoby Brissett's not bad. He's just not good. So, solid backup, no doubt. Solid backup. He proved that he can win you 7 games. So, he can win games when he needs to, but, he's not a starter. He won't get you to the playoffs. He won't win you a playoff game. But, if Phillip Rivers goes down for a game, Jacoby Brissett, you do have confidence that he can go and win you that game. So they got Phillip Rivers. They brought in Xavier Rhodes. Both Xavier Rhodes and Phillip Rivers, both on 1-year contracts. So they're kind of just testing it out. Xavier Rhodes, great on this defense, going to shore up that Colts defense. And they also got DeForest Buckner in the trade, or they traded their first-round pick with the 49ers to pick up DeForest Buckner. So once again, their defense is getting better and better. Their offense is pretty much solid. Frank Reich is really coaching this team very well, establishing a winning culture here in Colts in 2019. So in 2020, they're really just looking for a good quarterback and just a couple of good defensive pieces to really shore up the entire team, and that's exactly what they did in the offseason. They lose Devin Funchess. He only played 3 games, only 1 season with the Colts, so they're not missing too much there. They are losing Eric Ebron. He did have a great 2018 with 250 yards and 13 touchdowns. Not so great last year with only 3 touchdowns. So well done so they're not gonna miss him too much because he didn't really ball out in 2019. But the Eric Ebron from 2018 was very good. And then they still have T.Y. Hilton. Still good. And then they drafted Michael Pittman Jr., who's going to be another solid addition at receiver for Phillip Rivers in this kind of lousy kind of receiving core. Yeah, you have old reliable T.Y. Hilton, but that's really it. So they do pick up another piece of Michael Pittman Jr. I think he played for the Trojans last in college, and he was very good. So great pickup there. They didn't really lose anybody, and they picked up exactly who they needed to. So well done to this Colts team. They're definitely going to improve from 7-9 of last season. So let's see who they've got on the docket this season. Opening up at Jacksonville. Oh boy, that's like the best case scenario for this team. A sorry Jacksonville Jaguars team and an up-and-coming Colts team who's proven a winning culture last season. And then, you kind of got to get the kinks out a little bit with Phillip Rivers, a new quarterback coming and taking over the helm, taking over the leadership here on the offensive side. So this is truly fantastic for the Colts. Great, easy game to really get everybody acclimated, especially with no preseason games. All they've been doing is just practice, practice, practice. So in a game setting, you got Phillip Rivers, who's going to be able to kind of take command and learn game time setting of an offense that is new to him. So I've got a win there going week 1 against Jacksonville. Then they go to the Vikings. They probably lose that game. It's probably close, but an early tough opponent for this Colts team who's still trying to get it all together, because when you bring in a new quarterback, everything changes. Offense changes. You have to get into rhythm with all your receivers, your cadences, how you call the huddle, how you break everything down. So there is a little bit of a learning curve when you bring in a quarterback. Phillip Rivers, he's a veteran, so it's going to go a little quicker than it usually would, but still a tough opponent week 2. We'll give them a loss there. But then they go to they got the Jets at home. They probably win that game. I don't like Adam Gase. We'll see how Sam Darnold is going to take, year number 3, if he can stay healthy. No mono early in the season, hopefully. But I do think they are overall a better team than the Jets. Jets just losing their best defensive player, Jamal Adams, and the Colts getting two great defensive players in the offseason, Xavier Rose and DeForest Buckner. So we can give them a win against the Jets. Then, once again, the Salisbury team, early on, they still, Matt Nagy said, we'll call a starter, basically the first game of the season, which is not exactly what you want to do when you have a quarterback competition. You want to get, your starting guy early. And, him saying that, Matt Nagy saying that, we'll figure out the starter pretty much, the day before the first game, that's proving that both quarterbacks are not great. So Nick Foles isn't really showing anything great that they saw in that Super Bowl run, and Mitch Trubisky is not being really pushed by that veteran coming in and challenging him. So that's not a good sign for the Bears. We can count this a win for the Colts team. And then they've got the Browns. They're going into Cleveland, dysfunctional maybe a little bit early on in the season, still kind of trying to get that rhythm down. New head coach for Cleveland. Do we give them a win here? It's kind of close. Oof. It's close. At Cleveland. That's the only thing that kind of brings me down a little bit. Colts playing in a dome. Phillip Rivers doesn't really like, he played in San Diego, warm weather. Now he's going to Cleveland. He's going to be playing in a dome. how do we call it? We got them at 4 wins already. That's a lot to open up the season. Maybe we give them a loss here. We'll keep this game in mind as we look for another win. But let's say this is a loss. They're going into Cleveland, 4 o'clock game. So Cleveland will probably stunt a little bit more, knowing that they'll kind of be in that prime time slot of 4 o'clock games. So we'll count this one as a loss, but if we're not getting the results that we want from the Colts, we can come back and maybe change this one. But so far, let's count this as a loss for the Colts. Then they have the Bengals, and we can give them a win. Still early in the season. Joe Burrow's still trying to get everything figured out in Cincinnati, so we can give them a win here. This is at home going into the bye. That's a perfect scenario. Home team going into a bye, they're kind of going to come out a little bit more motivated than they would normally. So we can give them 5 wins by the bye. What is that? 5-2 by the bye? Not bad. Then they come off and they have to face the Lions. You know how I feel about the Lions. We can give them a win there. Then they face the Ravens. Can't give them a win there. Titans. We'll say that they split. We'll give the Colts the home game win. So we'll give them the loss in their first meeting because they're going into Tennessee. Once again, an AFC South team has to face Green Bay. This is going to be a little tough. I think I like Green Bay just a little bit more. So I think this might be a back to, is this 3 straight losses? That might be bad. So maybe 3 straight losses. Ravens, Titans, Packers, possibly 3 straight losses, but then they get back on track against their second meeting at home against Tennessee, so we can give them a win there. Then they face the Texans, probably give them the split once again. They're kind of evenly matched. So we'll give them the loss the first game when they have to travel to Houston. So we'll give them a loss there. They beat the Raiders. I really don't know how Derek Carr's going to really rebound, and I don't know if John Gruden's the greatest coach. New stadium, it looks sick as shit. Vegas, so they're going to try and win a lot of their home games, but the talent is a little lackluster. I don't know how good Derek Carr actually is, so we can give them the win there. We give them this win against the second meeting against the Texans at home, and then can we give them the win against the Steelers in Pittsburgh? Phillip Rivers and Big Ben, they know each other. How good is Big Ben going to be? Is he going to be healthy this late in the season? And is Pittsburgh going to be fighting for a playoff spot come December 27th when they play? I think we give them the win against the Steelers, so that's 10 wins. And then you finish off, and you got Jacksonville, who's an easy win there. So I've got the Colts at 11-4, 11-5. Their schedule's not that bad. Their toughest opponents are the Vikings and the Ravens and the Packers. That's really it. Everything else is in division. So, those teams, usually in division teams play each other closely because they see each other time and time again. So really their toughest opponents are Ravens, Packers, and Vikings. I don't think they win any of those games, unfortunately, but their schedule is easy enough to still get those wins. And the Colts improved from 7-9 to 11-5. Very well done by the Colts. I think Phillip Rivers is going to have very good success here in Indianapolis. He really has to, for the sake of his legacy. No Super Bowls, no real good playoff runs for Phillip Rivers, so he's got a chance to redeem himself. Colts have really, they've got a winning culture. They've got the receivers. They've got the defense. They just need to plug and play Phillip Rivers. So we'll see how that goes. I expect it to be very good. And I think Phillip Rivers can upgrade your team. 4 wins? I definitely think so. Alrighty. Let's move on to the Jags now. Oh, my God. They probably lose every game this season. Doug Marrone cannot coach. He had one good season. He's going into his 4th season with the Jags, pretty much his last season. He couldn't coach in Buffalo. I was a little shocked that they brought him in for the Jags in, 2016? Let's check real quick. I think it is 2016. 2016. And then 2017, he got full of the reins because he only coached 2 games in 2016. So in 2017, everything was kind of clicking for them. They were able to go 10-6, make the playoffs, we're trying to challenge the Patriots a little bit, and we all know how that turned out. So, yeah, the Jags getting rid of all their good players. We just saw Ngakoue. We know Jalen Ramsey. And we just saw today Leonard Fournette. So, really, all they have left is Gardner Minshew. And how good is he actually going to be, right? What do we got? What did he do? 21 touchdowns, 6 interceptions last year. Good. He started 12 games. And he threw 3,200 yards and 60%, which is good. But is he going to be able to keep it up going into year 2? Film is going to be on him. A lot of teams are going to be seeing what he's good at, trying to take that away. So how is he going to respond? I don't think it's going to be too great. I don't think he's a very great quarterback. Decent, yes. Can win you games. We saw it. He won. I think he went to 6-6 as a starter. They've got real no weapons now. Their defense is gone. Their running back is gone. They added Tyler Eifert. Not bad. Tight end. Reliable. But they lose Nick Foles, Marquise Lee. We saw Ngakoue, Fournette, A.J. Boye, Calais Campbell. Like that defense that went 10-6 in 2017 is no longer there. This is not the same Jags team anymore. They're kind of sorry across the board. No great pickups. They're still rocking with Gardner Minshew. So going into 2020, this Jags team is going to be a little sorry, even more sorry than they were last year. They were 6-10 last year. Let's count these wins. I don't even know how many we can even count. Colts, no. Titans, they probably lose both games against Titans and Colts. Dolphins early in the season. We'll see. Maybe, this is a primetime game. Thursday night game. I think the Dolphins show out. Maybe Tua makes a start this game. Week number 3, primetime game. Thursday night football against a not-so-great Jacksonville team. Expect Tua. He probably is not going to start. We still got Fitzpatrick, who can, he can win you some games where there's no pressure on the line, and he's kind of got no pressure on the line because they've already drafted his replacement. So expect a Week 3 matchup to feature Tua's first game starting, and that's probably why the Jags lose. So no win there. Maybe you pick up a win against the Bengals early in the season with Joe Burrow. I mean, we got to give this team some wins, right? We can't have them going 0-16. So I guess we give them a win against the Bengals. They're not beating the Texans. They could beat the Lions. You know how I feel about being at home going into the bye. They're going to try their hardest to win that game. Chargers, no, they don't win that game. They don't beat the Texans. They don't beat the Packers. Maybe they beat the Steelers. Maybe the Steelers are really not that great. We have to see how Big Ben is looking going into the season. I don't see a lot of more wins, so maybe we give them the win against the Steelers. They don't beat the Browns. They don't beat the Vikings. They don't beat the Titans this second time around. They don't beat the Ravens. They could beat the Bears late in the season when the season is probably out of reach for the Bears, and the quarterback controversy is kind of still being talked about, which it really shouldn't be this late in the season, but probably will be. So, and then they don't beat the Colts. So 4-12 for the Jags. Going back from what they did in 6-10, and then Doug Monroe gets fired. Probably how the season's going to look, and then you got to rebuild because Gardner Minshew is not the answer. You've just lost everybody on your defense. You don't have Leonard Fournette anymore. So the Jags trading your best players to win games isn't going to really fare well for them. I got them at 4-12. Alrighty. Then we can go to the last team in the AFC South, the Tennessee Titans. And, hey, they made it to the AFC Championship game, kind of by committee. We saw Derrick Henry running wild in their wild card game against the Patriots, and then once again against the Ravens, who Lamar Jackson said they weren't prepared for. Why? I would rather you beat me with Ryan Tannehill than a proven Derrick Henry rushing attack. But Lamar Jackson said they didn't prepare for Derrick Henry to run all over them. I don't know what they were thinking, but that's what he said. So, and then they have to face the Chiefs, and they tried to outshoot them with Ryan Tannehill, and that's not going to really work the entire time. Tannehill made like 12 completions in these first 2 playoff games, and then he threw for about like 30 times against the Chiefs, and that's not going to get it done. You got to play your own game when you face the Chiefs. Do not buy into the gunslinging mentality that Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes have really captured lightning in a bottle for the Chiefs. So They tried it. They lost 24-35. And, hey, it's respectable. It got Derrick Henry a good contract, and it got Ryan Tannehill a good contract. So, hey, great for them. But they signed Tannehill and Henry to great extensions. They'll be back. They added Vic Beasley and Jonathan Joseph. Vic Beasley off the edge and Jonathan Joseph, a great safety. We saw that coming from the Texans. So shoring up that good defense a little bit more. They lose Mariota, obviously, so they are going to just be rocking with Ryan Tannehill. No going back to Mariota, which I think is a smart decision. I think Mariota's time in the league is a little over. Tannehill just trying to buy his second wave to go a little bit longer, and I think he could. He's definitely a 9-7, 10-6 quarterback who can maybe win you a playoff game, but with Derrick Henry as a great option in the backfield, they proved that they can go a lot deeper. So everybody is going good. And then they lose Logan Ryan on the defense. That's kind of who they're trying to replace with bringing in Jonathan Joseph. Logan Ryan, 4 interceptions and 4 sacks last year. Very good. So Jonathan Joseph can definitely kind of make up for that as the loss of Logan Ryan. So expect this Titans team to be, still as good. We'll see if people can figure out this Derrick Henry, Ryan Tannehill combo that really worked the last half of the season. They had to win out to really save their season when they switched from Mariota to Tannehill, which Tannehill was able to be the leader of the squad and lead them to wins down the stretch. I think they went like 6-1 in their last 7 games to make the playoffs, and then in the playoffs really just exploded and caught fire. So well done to them. We'll see how it lasts going into this year. I think it will last pretty good. I do think Mike Vrabel is a very good coach, and I think Tannehill can get it done. And we saw Derrick Henry. I believe he was the rushing champion last year. I don't see him falling off. The man's a tough runner. The line is obviously very good because he was able to run so well. So now let's look at who their schedule has. The team is only as good as how easy their schedule is. So let's see. Game 1 against Broncos. This is a Monday night game, late at night. Jesus Christ, 10 o'clock. So they got a doubleheader on Monday night to kind of kickstart the season. At Denver, not great. Locke? Yeah. What's his first name? Locke. Drew Lock. Denver, I'm very impressed by Drew Lock, but this is a proven team in Tennessee that just got to the AFC Championship game. Maybe a little bit of a little slow start for Drew Lock, trying to get back into the rhythm of the season. So I think, this late game, though, is going to go against the Tennessee a lot. I do think the Titans are a little bit straight up better than the Broncos. I think Tannehill's a little bit better than Drew Lock, and I like Derrick Henry. But this late game, this late start could really prove detrimental to the Titans in this game. I'm going to give the Titans a win, but watch out for this late start. If the Titans lose, it's because of the 10-10. What are we playing at midnight now? This game's going to go to like 1 o'clock in the morning in the Eastern time zone where I am located. So I'll have to stay up till 1 o'clock to see how well the Titans fare. But I am going to give the Titans the slight edge over the Broncos here. The big factor against the Titans in this game is the time. All right, Jacksonville Jaguars, they win that game pretty easy. Once again, the AFC South team is facing the Vikings. I don't think they are better than the Vikings, so we won't give them a win there. Pittsburgh, really, Pittsburgh. Who do the Steelers have? You got old Big Ben coming off an injury. I don't think he's going to be as good as he has been. I think it may be over for the that Pittsburgh dynasty, I guess if you want to call it. Big Ben really their last remaining player, so we'll see how he plays, but I do have the Titans winning that game. Then they have the Bills. This Bills team is good, but they are in Tennessee. That's going to be pretty much the deciding factor, but I do think the Bills may be able to shut it down. I like Ryan Tannehill better than Josh Allen. They have a history. Do they have a history of each other? I don't think so. I think Tannehill left the AFC before Josh Allen actually got there, so they may not have any history with each other. But I do like Stephon Diggs better than what the Titans got, right? So that's really what it's going to come down to, plus the home field advantage for the Titans. It's going to be a close game. let's give the Titans the benefit of the doubt, right? So that'd be 4 wins. They've got kind of an easy schedule, kind of up off the top, so not too bad. We'll have them split against Houston. We'll have them winning their first game here going into the bye, so that's 5 wins. They beat the Bengals. Kind of really no problem there. We really have to see with Joe Burrow, and I forgot who their new coach is, but he's definitely promising. Probably going to be better than Marvin Lewis. I mean, you can't be really any worse. Like 12 years with like 2 playoff appearances and no playoff wins, so it can't be too much worse. But I think it's going to take a little bit of time to get this Bengals team all figured out. So we can give them a win against the Bengals. We can give them a win against the Bears. I am going to have them splitting this Colts series. So we'll give them their win again in their home game against the Colts. So now they're at 7. They don't beat the Ravens. They don't beat the Colts the second time. They could beat this Browns team. I think they could. I think Derrick Henry is going to kind of frustrate the Browns defense a little bit, and then the offense is going to try and dig themselves out of a hole if they get down early, and it's not going to work out too well for them. So I will give them a win against the Browns, a win against their second meeting against the Jaguars, a win against the Lions, probably lose the Packers and Texans at the tail end of their season here. So I've got them at 11 wins, which is pretty good, 11-5. They went 9-7 last year, kind of not dropping off too hard. So this AFC South, they've got some good talent. Texans, Colts, and Titans all viable for that division leader. And their schedules are kind of easy. They don't have too much competition outside of each other. They do have to face, all the teams have to face the Packers, the Lions, the Vikings, and who is it? The Bears? Packers, Lions, Vikings, Bears. Had to face all those teams, which really aren't going to be too much of a problem. Lions and Bears are pretty easy. Green Bay, you do have Aaron Rodgers, and Vikings, you do kind of have Kirk Cousins, and who is their receiver? I'm blanking. Not obviously not Stephon Diggs, their second receiver, who's very good as well. Is it like Daniel something? Something like that. I can't remember the name. But yeah, not too much competition outside of the AFC South. So we'll see how that shakes out. We have 2 teams finishing 11-5. I think Colts and Titans up at the top, and Texans, right behind them at 10-6. If I had to call a winner of the division, I think it's going to be the Titans. With the Colts, you do have Phillip Rivers, who's a good quarterback during the regular season, kind of falls off a little bit when it gets into crunch time going into the playoffs. And then with the Texans, I mean, you're losing DeAndre Hopkins. This man, I mean, he's truly fantastic. Bill O'Brien hasn't really proven he's the greatest coach. So I think the Titans, to really kind of repeat, yes, they didn't win the AFC South last year, but they got really deep into the playoffs, the AFC Championship game. You're bringing pretty much everybody back. You're adding Vic Beasley and Jonathan Joseph to kind of shore up those lost pieces that you lost on defense. Mike Vrabel may be the second best coach. I do think Frank Reich is the best coach in the division, but Vrabel very close second. So I do think the Titans win the division and the Colts get the wild card spot. I don't know if the Texans make it at 10-6, unfortunately. Usually in the AFC, a 10-6 record does give you the wild card spot, so we'll see how that shakes out. But yeah, for the review of the AFC South, I think the Titans are still the best team. Colts, it's going to be interesting to see what happens with Phillip Rivers. I am very interested in that. If he gets going, then the Colts will be the best team. So really, this AFC South is all dependent on Phillip Rivers. If he's good and he's going to play very good and not throw like 20-plus interceptions, then they've got a real chance at winning that division. If not, the Titans will be there to secure it. Yeah, so we got Texans going 10-6, Colts going 11-5. The sorry Jags going 4-12, and the Titans going 11-5 as well. So, decent competition in the AFC South.